Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next edition of the Act and its Impact, the knowledge series on the Companies Act 2013. And in this edition, let's talk about restricted services. Now, Section 144 of this Act restricts the statutory auditor of a company from performing other services, or rather it says that if you perform any other services that are specified in this section, your eligibility of a statutory auditor is not in order. So what are these services according to Section 144? It says a statutory auditor cannot render directly or indirectly to the company, its holding or its subsidiary. So it's not just your client, it's to your client, the client's holding or the client's subsidiary, the following services, namely accounting and bookkeeping, internal audit, design and implementation of any financial system, actuarial services, investment advisory services, investment banking services, outsourced financial services, management services, and any other kind of services as may be prescribed. If you recollect, in an earlier edition we had spoken about this rule-based legislation or a rule-driven legislation, where we spoke about the number of places in this Act where it says as may be prescribed. This is another classic illustration where it says any other services as may be prescribed can also not be performed by the auditor. Now this again brings to us a couple of interesting issues. Now the first issue is that if you notice, this is a classic case where something that was contained in the CA regulation has been brought into the Act. If you recollect, there were some restrictions that were placed in the CA regulations, one of which was for certain categories of companies, your non-audit revenue cannot exceed your audit revenue. In certain other cases, it was very, very clear that you, as a statutory auditor, you cannot do accounting or bookkeeping services. Other than this, there weren't too many clear restrictions that were defined, but now it's all in one place and it's in order. And ladies and gentlemen, this section incidentally also carries a penalty. So one has to be very clear. The Act had provided 1 year transition time for exiting out of these restricted services. So with effect from 1/4/2015 onwards, you cannot be performing any of these services for a statutory audit client. Now, clothed sort of deeply in this section is one little term that says management services. So does the Companies Act actually define a management service? Well, the answer is not the present edition with its changes, 150 orders, circulars and notifications. No, there's no clarity yet on management services. But it appears that it will be appropriate to sort of take a reference, and the Institute has come up with a little guidance on this. There is a guidelines for practice in corporate form where management consultancy and other services was defined. And this is what it reads: the expression management consultancy and other services shall not include the function of statutory or periodical audit, tax, both direct and indirect taxes representation or advice concerning tax matters, or acting as a liquidator, trustee, executor, administrator, arbitrator or receiver, but shall include the following. Now this the guideline goes on to define a whole list of management services that you can have a look at. This was actually in a notification which was dated 2005, the Code of Ethics. It's in page number 8 to 10. The Code of Ethics 2005 edition is the relevant reference, and it speaks of the following categories of restricted services. It says management, consultancy and other services includes the following, namely financial management planning and financial policy determination, capital structure planning and advice regarding raising finance, working capital management, preparing project reports and feasibility studies, preparing cash budget, cash flow statements, profitability statements, statement of sources and application of funds, etc., budgeting, including capital budgets and revenue budgets, inventory management, material handling and storage, market research and demand studies, price fixation, control methods and management information and reporting, valuation of shares and business regarding amalgamation, merger and acquisition, organization and structure and behavior, acting as an advisor or consultant to an issue, including matters relating to prospectus, etc. So, if you notice, this actually goes on to define a huge list, and you are most welcome to refer to this by looking at page number 8 to 10 of the Code of Ethics 2005 edition. Ladies and gentlemen, the important thing is, must watch out that you as a statutory auditor do not directly or indirectly perform any of the restricted services. And does the Act define directly or indirectly? Yes, it does. Please go to section 144 and you will be able to refer to this definition. It talks about how you, not just as an auditor but even through a related entity, cannot perform these services. A section to mark, watch out and note, because in a lot of cases, our clients being what they are, we may not be able to sort of make a clear distinction between an audit and a non-audit service, and we end up trying to help a client. Kindly take care and ensure that you maintain independence. That's the whole idea in trying to restrict an auditor from performing other services. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned to the Act and its impact, and this was an edition on restricted services. Thank you.